So, you want to be a contractor. Ever wonder what it takes to become a contractor? The journey they go on to get where they are now, or the crazy things they see and hear on the job site? Well, you're in the right spot. Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor, the podcast. Join your host, Mike Fisher, as he talks to owners of construction companies from all over about how they got started, how they run their business, and some of the craziest stories they've experienced on their job sites. And now, your host, Mike Fisher.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor. This is episode number 15. My name is Mike Fisher. My guest today, Aaron Gianni. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing well.
Good. Aaron is the owner at Larratt Brothers Plumbing and also the founder of the Plunjr App, which we'll get into shortly, and which is pretty exciting and fun. So Aaron's actually been on my previous show, so fun to get this little update and kind of see how things have gone. I feel like the first time we talked, Plunjr was pretty new, right?
Yeah, it was new to most people. I'd been working on it since 2017.
Well, no, obviously, yeah.
but
you've been working on it a while. Yeah.
It's new to to everybody else out there these days. So, but yes.
Perfect. Well, to get this started, let's learn a little bit about you. How did you get involved in this industry, and kind of what brought you to where you are today?
Sure. Well, today I'm a 40-year-old man in the construction industry. There's not a lot of us 40-year-old men that are in this industry. I fell into this weird pocket where I graduated high school in 99. And at that time, you were the dumb kid if you went into construction. At least it was how it was perceived. It didn't mean that's what we are. But
right.
School wasn't the thing for you, right? But everybody in my family is a contractor in some sense, or been an entrepreneur, or had personal family, small businesses kind of things. And I tried the college path like everybody else. When I say tried, I was enrolled for 6 months at community college, and I probably spent 2 weeks of that there. And figured out
that means I barely beat you. That's all it means.
Right. I figured out really quick. I went right from high school to junior college, and found out really quick that nobody's looking for you there. Like, if you didn't show up when you came back, I had my excuse all made out and why I wasn't going to be here, and nobody cared. Right. I was like, wow, this is cool. Right. Is this college?
Personal accountability. Huh?
Yeah. I didn't have any of that at that time.
Yeah.
So, I kind of just goofed off that year, which is fine now looking back at it. But, I happened to be at a family party. There was a boom going on in 2000, a construction boom. They just needed warm bodies on construction sites. I had experience, and I was working at Blockbuster Video. For our younger viewers that don't know what that is,
I was going to say, good thing that didn't. Good thing you didn't go to management there, right? And look at that long term.
One of the best jobs I ever had, though. That was kind of fun job, but for different reasons. But I got into the trades. I just happened to sign up with a union contractor. Everybody in my family is a non-union, has a non-union background. It was just a union plumbing shop at that time. At this family party, there was a electrician and a plumber competing for me. Like I said, warm bodies. And the plumber just happened to be the guy I called back a week later. They put me on a job. I ended up being their driver and warehouse guy for about a year. Got into the union program shortly thereafter, and the rest is history. I actually hid a lot of that from my friends at the time. I was embarrassed that I had signed up for construction. But 2 or 3 years into it, I was making $30 an hour, $35 an hour.
Through the union, yeah.
Yeah, in 2003, I was making $37 an hour. I think that's when I met my wife, maybe the year after, somewhere around there. And she thought I was rich. Yeah. She thought I was rich, right? I was living on my own. I'm making $37 an hour. I was financially free. I was traveling the world whenever I could. It was good. It was in hindsight, it's been a really good decision for me. I went through a union program here in San Mateo County, local 467 Plumbers Union. Uh, and turned out there as a journeyman, my entire apprenticeship with the plumber that got me in, WL Hickey Sons Plumbing, based out of Sunnyvale. They gave me some great opportunities to do large multifamily type work. I was in charge of managing projects that were, total project valuation was between 50 and $100 million.
Jeez.
So that's total construction, everybody.
Yeah.
I think our plumbing contracts were in the like 10 to 12, maybe $15 million ranges at that point. But I had 30, 40 guys working for me, and under 30 years old. It was an interesting time for me to have to take leadership over guys that were ready to retire. But there wasn't a lot of us, like I started saying. There's not a lot of 40-year-olds that are in this industry right now because there was a huge gap. I found it the right time to leave Hickey Plumbing. We were in the middle of a recession, and I had some differences with management and wanted to do something different. And based on my family background of our businesses in the past, how we treat employees, how we dealt with business is just a different standard. And I wanted to be able to give that to my guys. And so went out and started my own shop. I was naive. I live in Half Moon Bay, California, and I thought, I'm just going to run up around the coast, and I'm going to call up these people that I was doing with these $100 million projects, and they'll get a job. I can manage that.
They'll just turn over their business to me. I'm brand new, no big deal.
Yeah, why not? I had no idea. I was like I said, naive. I had no idea about like bonding and credit history and all that stuff, right? So quickly learned that you need all that stuff and what those things were after doing some Google searches. And the union busted me is what happened. Is they found out I had my own company, and I was not signatory to them. If you for your viewers that aren't union and don't know that, if you're a union trained employee and you start your own business, there's obligation for you to be a union contractor. And a lot of their contracts, the way they're set up, when you get in, you're required to stay there like that.
Right.
And I wasn't opposed to that. It's just there's a lot of cost associated.
A lot of paperwork,
really
a lot of costs.
Yeah, it's really hard for a small business, a small mom and pop business, to stay union, especially as like a service contractor or something like that.
You really got to have those big jobs and backlogged. Yeah,
for sure. That could be a whole podcast on its own, the union, non-union discussion, right? Lots of reasons for either. But so I came in, they coerced me into signing their agreement, basically. But the thing I left them with when I walked away was don't close off any good opportunities for me. I went out and started this business because I wanted to do what I want to do. But if there's a good matchup somewhere, let me know. I'll come back and just sign the books and dispatch me, right? Maybe about a month. It wasn't very long. About a month went by, and Mike Swanson called me up. He was our business agent at the time, and said, hey, there's an opportunity at Larratt Brothers Plumbing. These two guys want to get out. They want to retire. Their kids don't want it. And they're looking for an exit strategy. They just bid off a bunch of this work in South San Francisco, remodeling schools, and it's way bigger than they're used to doing. They don't have anybody to manage it. Right inside my wheelhouse and of stuff that I used to manage. So it was the perfect opportunity and just good timing. I went and talked with these guys. We cut a deal, and I was able to purchase the business for, what they wanted. And that gave me the vehicle to do what I wanted to do, right? To go after the $100 million project, the $10 or $15 million plumbing package project. Because now I can walk into with a Webcor, walk into a meeting with a Webcor, a Dinwiddie Hathaway, and I can say, hey, we've been in business since 1990. I'm just the negotiator at that point. My name's not even Larratt a lot of times. So it worked out pretty good. And we were able to grow the company that was 2015. So in 7 years, we've grown from $1.5 million a year, $2 million on a good year, to almost $15 million a year.
Wow.
Which has been pretty good for us.
You're able to walk into all that infrastructure and people that knew what the bonding and insurance and all those things
Yeah.
were and how they
Yep.
operated, and
And
didn't have to.
because I'm operating from a I hate the word self-made, but like from a ground up guy. Like I was the truck driver.
Yeah.
I dug trenches. I still do. I got my jeans on today and my work clothes because I might need to go to work, right?
Yeah.
You get a different respect level from the manpower and woman power these days. And I was able to attract some good talent from the industry that wanted to be a part of that. So yeah, over the last 7 years, we've done projects that others have said, other companies that are 10, 20, 30 times bigger than us that are doing, that said were impossible. Specifically, there was a high profile hotel job that one of the giant contractors said was impossible timing. There's no way you can do it. By the way, your budget is bullshit. Here's an extra $2 million, right? This is what it's going to cost, and you're going to comply to this. And Dinwiddie Hathaway said, no way. They looked at us and said, can you do this project? It was like a $9 million project, had to be completed in 6 months. I was going to have like 40 or 50 plumbers working for me in tight time frames. And I said, yeah, sure, I can do it.
Yeah, no problem.
Right. And I went home and I shit my pants and I don't know how we're going to do this. I talked a bonding company into bonding it for us. I put my house on the line, my shop on the line. They owned everything that I had for those 6 months. But because we did it, we're a different
I was gonna
company.
say it's one of those make or break kind of deals. Yeah.
Mhm. The industry looks at us differently, and for what we did, the Hathaways, the Webcors, and those companies, when they look at what we actually did and we show them on paper, they're like, "That's impossible. How'd you do that?" I go, "Call Hathaway, ask them." Right? Verify. So, but having I'd say all that because having a good team and being able to recruit the manpower, being a working owner that's not sitting on his boat, right?
Right.
Somewhere, it makes the difference. Like I physically managed that job for 6 months. I lived in that hotel. I literally had a room on the second floor as we worked from the top down until they took my room. And there was nights I slept there because I was just working my ass off.
Right. Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, when they own your house and your business and everything else, like you kind of, or your shop rather, and you kind of have to, right? Like,
my accountant and my lawyer,
mentality.
Yeah, my accountant and my lawyer thought I was crazy. Like, you're gonna put your house on? I go, yeah, it's just things, man. Like, I bought it once, I can do it again, and plus, it's incentive for me to finish, right?
Right.
And they're like, all right, if you
no better motivation.
So. My wife, I don't think my wife really knew what was really happened. She's pretty lucky that she doesn't have to participate here. She doesn't choose to participate, I should say, right? I don't keep her from it, but she doesn't choose to participate in the business and supports me in what I'm doing. So, right. I don't think she knew that the house was on
that
the
might
line
have been
like
a
it
little
was.
added level of stress. Yeah. Hopefully she's not listening, right? Or maybe did you tell her about it afterwards? Because
she'll listen, but I jokingly say, like I tell her to come by our office in San Francisco, and I jokingly ask her like, "Hey, do you need the address?" Because that's how many times she's been here, right? So she's got a good job of her own, and I mean that's a generational thing with 40 years old and younger. Like we kind of, even though couples are together, we live kind of separate lives sometimes with two jobs and stuff. And her focus is her job and making sure our kid gets to school, and my job is making sure that we live in the lifestyle we want. So and it works. And when we come home, we leave work at work and home at home, right? So it's good. Little side tangent into personal life there, but
yeah. No, I mean, and like you said, I mean that's the generation, right? So I mean, it's not abnormal for sure. Speak a little bit to kind of coming in as, like you said, the guy that used to get his hands dirty, and you know what I mean? Because a lot of these companies, when they hire new CEOs or new owners or ownership changes, it's really from a high level executive level, right? Especially when you're doing that kind of business. Because I mean, a couple million is nothing to, shake a stick at. I mean, that's
Sure.
pretty good still. I mean, so, businesses change hands at the smaller level, kind of how you did it, right? But at that level, usually it's venture capital money or high level CEOs or executives that come in and take that over and run it. So how did you, obviously you had that experience, and that respect was gained once those guys and girls figured it out. But how were you able to come in and kind of show that and be able to explain, like, hey, I mean, was it just a all hands meeting? Like, hey, I've done this. Here's what I've done, or how did that process work?
Um, Most of the time they don't even know that I'm the owner. And I don't let that show very often. I've specifically kept the name because I'm not vain. I don't need my name on the side of the building. I just like money, right? So,
Right.
um, but a lot of times it's not a conversation. It's the general or the employee finding out. Most recently, we had a job in South San Francisco. We're rebuilding their library and community center. It's a pretty big job. It's an 800-foot long building, 3 stories tall, probably a couple 100 feet wide. Architecturally, pretty stunning and high profile for South City, right? So we didn't have a foreman available, so I went and ran it. I'm like, it's not a lot of plumbing. And plus, I have fun doing this. I'm gonna go do it. And we hired this new apprentice, first period union apprentice, has no idea who I am. I just shows up first day of work. Like, he didn't meet me here in my office. Uh, just showed up first day of work, and we worked together for like 3 weeks before he figured out who I was. And he had to come here at the shop or something. I can't remember. But he's like, I'm looking for Aaron. Oh, he's in his office, and he's like up here. Like, you're the owner? I'm like, yeah, right. and and that's a different. I think about that from first person, right? Like how I would have felt working with the owner of maybe Hickey Plumbing or somewhere else that I worked. As the worker, you automatically give that person a little more respect. They know what I'm doing. Often there's a separation, us versus them, office versus
Right.
field, and that
Right.
separation is growing with like AutoCAD and designers, detailers, and that kind of stuff. Um,
100%. Yeah.
and I think the way to bring it back is to like remind the owners that nothing should be beneath you. If you can
Right.
physically go out and put some of this pipe in, you should once in a while just to show you can, right? Um, or get on the forklift and unload a truck. Like that stuff shouldn't be beneath you. And if it
Right.
is, you're in the wrong industry.
Yep.
The guys won't respect you if you won't. Um, so uh, very few times has it been the fact that I've had the conversation about that. It's usually just witnessed. So, and by the contractor
So
too.
curious, kind of in that situation you gave, right, where that kid found out. Did you see any sort of change? Was there something you saw different, like in the field after he
No,
realized that, or
he's just
no?
he's still a dumb kid. Didn't know which way to put the pipe in, right? But
But I mean, I guess that's good, right? That means that he wasn't. I mean, that was his true self, right?
and it's a
So that's
long
good. Yeah.
term effect on those people that they'll carry with them more than just that moment. Some guys will flop. I've had superintendents yelling at me on a job site, telling me they're going to call the owner. And I go, great. Go, hey, wait, there's a specific,
Waiting for my phone to ring.
dude, a specific moment we changed our phones, and we all of a sudden had the ability to like forward to cell phones. I go, hey, just call the office, ask for Melissa, tell her who you are, just ask her to forward you to the owner. And my phone rang, and he's like, his whole demeanor and changed, and oh my god, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, you just showed me who you were. So
Right.
for those reasons, I've kind of enjoyed that my name's not the same last name, and I'd rather know who I'm dealing with out the gate. Um, so
Yeah. Well, so kind of on that a little bit of it was that intentional from the very beginning, or was it more that you kind of wanted to keep the name because of the reputation
I
in the
had
industry?
I originally I kept the name um, for the history, right? It's
Right.
Been since they've been around since 1990. They had a good name for each other. If you guys know the Larratts, as two brothers that like to hunt and fish, they have a whole story behind them, right? And people loved them for that. There was no need to change it. When I went out on my own and I created my own business prior to these guys, I started Aaron Gianni Plumbing and Consulting, because that's just what you do. Like,
Right.
I had said earlier in the podcast, I'm not vain, but you're struggling to come up with a name. Like, I'll just call it. And then I called it AGPC because I was a little embarrassed that I put my name in it. Right.
Put your name on it, yeah.
Doing business at DBA, it's AGPC. Right. But I quickly grew into liking the name. I like their logo. Their logo's, it's fine. Like, everything worked. And, one day, Steve Larratt asked me one day, he was really worried that I was going to change the name. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey man, you can change the name?" And they had just released this option at Nike that you could write anything you want on the soles of your heels. And I bought some new Nikes and I had Larratt put on my Nikes. And I'm like, "Dude, I had your name put on my Nikes. I'm not changing the name."
Not changing it.
Nike since got rid of that, but I liked that. I was printing Larratt on my Nikes. I'm a shameless promoter. I'll wear it wherever. It's our brand. It's a
little easier when it's not your own name, right? Like you said, there's a little bit of that vain kind of thing you feel when you're wearing your own name all over the place.
So, some guys love it, and hey, I'm not shaming those guys. Like, it's fine, but just not me. So
yeah. So what was the transition like? It sounds like you obviously had a pretty good relationship with the brothers, and maybe you still do, but what was that process like, changing hands?
It was definitely tough at times. They were, they in hindsight, it makes sense. They were on exit mode and I'm on entrance mode. And those are two totally different spending habits.
Totally different, yeah.
Right? Because I want to dump everything we're making back into the company. I want to buy new trucks. I want to buy good tools. I want to expand, right? And the way our deal was structured, part of their deal was they got profit sharing, right? For those years that they stuck around for 3 years, right? So they were constantly worried about conserving money. And I'm like, dude, these are my 3 years that I need you guys to help me expand. And in hindsight, I see that that created some tension. We didn't end on the greatest terms. Most of these deals I've learned don't when there's a transition change. And after talking to my family on how that's gone for them in the past with other small businesses, it seems to be typical. Maybe it's just typical of our family. Maybe it's a personality thing. I don't know. But
no, it's not. It's definitely I don't think you're alone there for sure.
I wouldn't say anything bad about those two based on the fact that they ran a business for 20 some odd years, right? That had a great name for themselves. They both did very well for themselves within their own means, provided for their kids and families, and sure, there were struggles at times, but they made it what they wanted for that time, and I needed it for something else. I respect the name, and I don't know if they want me to keep their name on their Nikes anymore. I'll leave it at that, right? So, yeah.
So how's it been? I mean, working in the union versus managing a union shop is got to be obviously a night and day turnaround. Was there a learning curve, or was it such that you obviously walked into something that was already built and you had those people surrounded you, so you kind of had it made for you? How did that work for you?
That definitely helped. Having the machine definitely helped. That already managed that. We had like 5 or 6 plumbers at that time. So we had a union bill. When it's just a owner operator, the rule is I don't have to pay my own pension.
Right.
So the cost could be a lot less, but as soon as you hire your first employee, you got that union pension to pay. And in San Mateo County, the total package for a plumber is somewhere in the range of like $125 an hour. That's total cost to the employer, right? So that's not take home. but that's his health and welfare,
right,
pension, all that
right.
stuff. Before we're talking about truck and gas and all that, right? And this is coming from the guy who had no business experience. I just figured it out, right? And I remember the first time there was a union check sitting on the counter waiting to get signed by Larratt, and I walked by and it was like I can't remember, $30,000-$40,000, right? And I'm like, wow, I'm thinking we're rich. I just saw the paychecks. I just saw the checks come in on Friday, like all the checks we just got. And I'm like, wow, it's a big check, Marissa. Is that a quarterly check? And she's like, oh no, that's just this month. And I'm like, oh, this is
Yikes.
exponential. We have more people. This is going right. And we've had since then we've had union checks in excess of $300,000 or $400,000. So for a month, and that's crazy. That's a crazy cost.
Yeah.
There's lots of, again, a whole nother podcast, but that's
Right.
there's all sorts of reasons and good things that unions do. And as an employee, I liked being in the union, what I got from that, with the pay and that kind of stuff. As an employer, it's really hard. And
Yeah.
currently, I've been working with the local unions to try and figure out how we expand service. The union has given up service nationally, and they admit it. One of the only markets that we have a grip on is St. Louis. And their local BA told me they do 80% of the service work and residential work, which is unheard of. For a comparison, in San Francisco, the union suspects that we have about 3% of the residential market. And we have a way bigger.
That's probably, I guess. Yeah.
I would say that's probably high, right?
Right.
But they refuse to change their thinking on how we attack that, and for good reason. They don't want to. They say break down conditions. They don't want to break down conditions and that kind of thing. But one of the things that leads you into this conversation is like starting your own plumbing company. Usually starts with a service shop or a small mom and pop shop, and the union doesn't help that guy. And I was that guy, right? I when I left Hickey Plumbing and started AGPC, nobody taught me business. Nobody helped me. Nobody gave me like some starter funds or, hey, come down and sign the union agreement, our master labor agreement, and we'll give you $10,000 to start your business and help you get going. You need stickers for your truck? We got you, right? That's what you think would be out there to incentivize guys to expand into service shops, or to get back some of that. So I've started having that discussion locally and some national people within the union to try and get more of that type of thinking at least out there. And we'll see where that goes. But
it is part of the problem getting guys into the union, right? I mean, if you make it easier for these guys to start small service shops that are union, and now they're needing guys all over the place. I mean, is there an issue with getting guys into the union that may be blocking that?
Yes, that's leading into that question. I should say, I know some statistics because of plungers, right? So I know a lot of these service statistics.
Yeah.
But for every 5 plumbers that retire right now, only 1 is coming into the industry, whether it's union or non-union. And it's likely not union at that level.
Right.
The union, I can only speak for Local 467 because I went through their training program. I do a substitute thing there, so I know their training program. They limit the amount of people they bring in to about 30. And they do that for specific reasons, that when things are booming, you want to bring in like 90 first period apprentice, because everybody wants a first period apprentice. It's cheap. But when things slow down, 45 or 60 of the people are sitting on the books, and are unemployed. So they try to walk the line and make sure that they're only bringing in enough people that they can train, as well as enough people to pay back a pension long term. So they're always looking
Right.
for that 25-year mark.
Yep.
There's lots of other good programs out there. The PHCC that does training at school at a non-union level. Those are all
Yep.
good programs too. So I think we're going to see a huge shift. It's the talk of every podcast and construction,
Yep.
article out there about needing more contractors, and kids that are 18 or 19 that are finishing high school are quickly learning, I don't want $60,000, $100,000 worth of debt. I can make $60,000 or $80,000, $100,000 as a contractor in less than 5 years.
Yep.
So I think we're going to see a huge shift in the next 10 years. It's going to take 5 years to train those people, another 5 years of experience before they actually are willing to start businesses, or at least, or whatever out there. And I
Right.
think at the 10-year mark, I'm in trouble, because guys like me will be the old guys, and less educated, less savvy, less business educated at that point. I'll just be weathered, right, at that point. But
Well, especially if you stay out in the field and keep,
for sure,
installing pipe.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely broken
Gotta
from.
slow that down at some point.
Oh man, we got a new job starting, and it's like 3 weeks of underground, and it's kind of the similar situation to that South City job I was talking about. And I'm like, I don't want to crawl in and out of a trench for 3 weeks. My knees are gonna kick in my ass. But
Yep.
but I enjoy it. I'll be out there just because I can't not. So
Right. Yeah.
I like it.
So something else that's come up pretty recently, and kind of curious where you guys are at on the supply chain. Right? Do you guys have an issue with materials and supplies
Oh, yeah.
and prices and all those things?
We're definitely not immune to it. We're in tune with it. I like to think that we have a unique ability to pivot because we're not so close-minded. A good example is we're doing a huge hotel remodel, 650 some odd rooms, and a faucet supplier that won't be mentioned, Moen, is not Moen, told us they can't get us the faucets in time. We don't like to say no. I don't like to be the guy that held
Right.
up the project.
Right.
And at the very least, I'm going to communicate that information to the owner, and then offer options at that point that are available. And so we spend a lot of our own time right now, which is frustrating, finding alternative options, coming up with a Simmons option that they are ready to ship 450 right now, and they'll have another 200 ready in about a month and a half. We offer that option along with cost and everything, and then let the owner decide. That's been our approach. The owner ultimately had information that we didn't, that the vanities for said faucets were delayed and are going to shut down the project for 2 months anyways, right? So they made the decision to stay, and Moen's faucets are now sitting here in my warehouse, and I'm storing them. But we definitely try to have the 100-yard stare on it, right, to make sure that we're ahead of the curve. It's a frustrating place to be. Even down to PVC or PEX right now. PEX, we have a 12-week lead time on PEX piping right now, which is crazy. Like that's shelf item stuff, and we got a job starting in June that we're going to buy PEX for. Like, it's crazy. And there's a bunch of other stuff that goes along with that. Like, how do you finance it? How do you fund it? If you're a small shop like us, you have to ask the contractor to, pay for it. And then we have to store it. The contractor doesn't want to pay for that. So, it's been exhausting, but we have worked through it, and we've managed to offer alternates that have been acceptable. And that's been our workaround. Let's find something that does work for what you got.
Yeah. You hear so often, obviously the big one is lumber, but I know that, just because I think it's out there, right? And everybody knows it and talks about it, but it's I guess it's enlightening to hear that it's not just the lumber, right? There's issues everywhere.
Every
right?
industry.
Like you said, the PEX and the PVC, and
every industry that's out there, it doesn't matter. And we can blame it on Chinese shipping or whatever, but it's even local. And
Right.
it's just, it's, I think it's a byproduct of a lot of the geopolitical stuff that's happening, along with people just being tired. Like the last 2 years, whether you've been sitting at home or a contractor that's out there every day, you're tired. We want some
Yeah.
status quo. I think we're getting back to that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that feels good to be,
Mentally tired more than anything,
right?
right? Yeah.
I mean, as a contractor
Yeah.
in the last 2 years, we, when COVID hit, we literally had 2 days off. San Francisco somehow figured a loophole in the system to keep us building low income housing, any city project that was deemed essential. So we were doing a
Yep. Yep.
pool, right? And the pool was considered essential. And I'm like, wait a second. So we're going to continue building the pool so that the day it's done, we can close it and put a sign that the pool's closed for COVID. And they're like,
Closed. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there
Yeah.
there was logic there. And I'm like,
You nailed it.
okay, right? And then on top of that, you need to comply with all this new stuff that's not in your contract, and you have costs associated with it, and tough luck. And
That weren't built
oh
into it.
man,
Yeah.
that was a tough time. Like
Yeah.
we were rolling high coming into COVID. We had good momentum. We were just finished up that big project I was telling you about. We had like 2 or 3 more projects that were similar lined up that just disappeared. And then I'm left with being like not only trying to run a plumbing company and a tech company. I got employees that are like concerned with their health and welfare, and
Right.
to have to like lead people out of that, along with the, political relevance or whatever else. And it was tough. And
Yeah.
I'm fucking tired. Like I'm tired of it.
Yeah. Well, like you said, mentally, right? Like more
Yeah.
than anything, just mentally exhausted. It's just been
But
one thing after another.
on the flip
Yeah.
side, like my wife had like a month and a half off, and her company just closed and paid her, and she's just like chilling at home watching Maury. And I come home, I'm exhausted. And she's like, "Hey, what are we doing for dinner?" I'm like, don't care what we're doing. Order some, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely been a little exhausting. I think we're in a new chapter now. I think there's a lot of these guys
Yeah,
like
hopefully things get a little easier.
I think this was a push though for all the Larratt brother type guys, the baby boomers, to just exit,
Yeah.
which is going to make it worse shortly. That goes back to that 5 retiring, 1 coming in thing.
Right.
It'll make it worse short term, better long term.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hoping. So
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on a little bit running that tech company, and we mentioned at the beginning, but get into Plunjr, right? That's the fun stuff. That's where, I mean, not ideally, but the contractor, the construction space is kind of moving, right? And you're kind of helped lead that way with some tech.
Sure. It seems a little cliche, and I'm embarrassed sometimes when I tell people I have a video self-help app, because they're like, "Oh, because of COVID." I'm like, "No, I've been working on this shit since 2017." Like, and there's
if it was since COVID, you're a brilliant
Right?
rock star,
Well,
right? If you were able to
and
develop and launch this in a year and a half.
what's funny is that COVID exposed my competitors. Prior to COVID, I didn't know any existed, and despite me looking
Yeah.
for them, right? Because I was obsessed
Yeah.
with trying to find somebody else that's doing what we're doing. And what we're doing is really just a video call with e-commerce attached to it.
Right.
It sounds kind of dumb or easy, right? Like, well, yeah, that's easy. Build that, right? It's hard. And finding they call it UI UX, right? The user experience, is the key. And that's what I'm finding out here, that even that my competitors that just got $70 million worth of funding, they suck. I hope they're watching. HomeX, if you're watching, you guys suck. Your UI UX sucks, right? And that was my UI UX in 2017, just so you guys know. So we've spent a lot of time on, I've reskinned this app 4 different times. And we've really done a good job at creating it from a customer standpoint and a plumber standpoint, a technician standpoint, to recreate the service call that happens when we show up to your house. It's supposed to be so matter-of-factly that we just helped you with your plumbing problem that you hang up and you go, how did I only spend $45 for that? Right. And my toilet's working again. That was wonderful. Literally every single customer that I have says like, how does everybody not know about this? Why is this not like Kleenex and everybody's using it? And I'm like, well, because it's self-funded. It's coming from a single owner. I don't have millions and millions of dollars of advertising. So I didn't tell your listeners what I do, but what we do is literally just a FaceTime call on our own platform that we've created where you don't have to give us
like telemed, but for plumbing, right?
And even better, we don't ask you for any personal information. You can hit that button. And a lot of times, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but I get plumbers that call me that are testing me. And I can tell sometimes they're like sitting around on 5-gallon buckets asking me questions, right? Are you a real plumber? Because as a contractor, we're so used to tech trying to get in our space, and they do
Take
it
a job.
and they do it so shitty.
Yeah.
They take it from a tech perspective. Let me try and disrupt this industry. And they usually don't take a tactic that's going to work for them on the contractor side. They might have a great idea for the consumer, but at the end of the day, you need contractors to help you do this stuff. The Angie's List and the thumbtacks out there, as a contractor, it's not a good deal for us signing up for most contractors. It's not, It doesn't seem like an equitable deal for me. So we've really taken the stance that it has to be a good share for both sides, has to be a value for the customer, and a contractor has to go, yeah, I would use that because it's equitable for me. It's not like, hey, I'm going to help you save money. No, I'm actually going to make you money when you use it. And there's a really simple ROI for that. I'm a hard person to sell. I say no to every salesperson that walks through my door. And so I've sold it to myself as, would I sign up for this product and would I listen to myself? And it has to be that easy of a pitch. The pitch has to be so matter-of-factly that they can't say no. And it works.
Can't say no.
So we get customers that the most common thing they say when they answer the call is wow. And it's funny, I'm not making that up. Like, wow, that was fast. And it's like, it's usually less than 10 seconds. They have a plumber on them. If it's within business hours, it's usually less than 10 seconds. They have a plumber and we're looking at their plumbing problem. In most cases, we can help them fix it. Most people are calling for like, hey, I got this P-trap half together, or it's the wrong size. What size do I need? These are the people that weren't going to call a plumber anyways. Certainly weren't going to call a union plumber. They're looking on YouTube how to fix things.
Yep.
And that's the biggest criticism I get from plumbers is you're stealing jobs from us, and you know that YouTube does this, right? And I'm like, you're dumb. You're not listening. Like, you know how many different,
not interactive.
How many different toilets there are out there that are just slightly different, and the homeowner doesn't understand that. They're looking up, how do I replace a toilet flush valve? And inside their toilet, they got a Kohler cartridge thing, and the standard one just has a flapper. That's the most common one you're going to find. And we know that. As soon as we look at that, we know there's two different types. We know that there's a yellow and a red washer at the bottom of that. Sometimes it's just the washer you got to replace. That's only $1. That if you hit the 2 clips and pull it off and you put a new washer on and clip it back on, you're done. Like, that's not
good. Yeah.
It's not worth my time as a plumber to go out and do that call. It's not worth my time as a plumber to go out and do that call and justify $300 for replacing a $2 part
for a service call
in San Francisco to walk through the door of somebody's house worth $300. And that's going to sound outrageous to your listeners in Kansas and wherever else. But
Right.
We're the cheap ones, and we're even the union ones. Like
Yeah.
there's guys out there charging $450 and they're getting it. I don't think that's fair. I think that we can teach people to do some of these things and make it equitable on both sides. And that same person that I showed how to, install a $2 part, I'm their plumber forever. I am the version of the sticker that you put on water heaters and garbage disposals. That's us now. That's where people come.
Well, and they're literally going to tell everybody, right? That's one of those things that you tell everybody about because it's so new and such a different approach that like you said is so easy and equitable on both sides that they tell everybody.
And
that's a word of mouth thing for sure.
So it's good. And most of the time, again, people don't expect the CEO, right, the creator, to be answering these calls. So they're like, well, how do I pay you? I want to make sure you get paid. And I'm like, hey, look, it's more important for me that you tell 10 people, right? Tell your 10 friends.
Right.
So a lot of people that the calls that I'm actually answering, I usually am just giving away for free. And I just want 10 more followers for that, right? Or something.
Yeah.
But so lately
so when we first talked, it was probably over a year ago at this point. I feel like you were answering most of those calls, right? I feel like at that point you were like, hey man, if I get a call, like I might have to take it or something along those lines. But it sounds like now, are you at the point where you're bringing on different plumbing companies and teaching them how to do this for you?
Yes,
like an Uber kind of thing, where
I'll be completely transparent, and I'll be back to the Larratt Brothers thing and some being naive. I had a business partner that left about a year ago, and we have a phone line set up in my office next door for Plunjr. And the calls, I didn't know where they were routing at that time, but I wasn't concerned with it. Well, I had them start routing to my cell phone, and plumbers were calling, asking to sign up for the service, and nobody was responding to them. Right. And I couldn't believe it. Like I probably get at least one or two a day, right? From plumbers that are progressive around the country enough that are already doing this. They have a chat box on their on their website, right? And they have to interact with it because now they have a chat box. It's not out there yet.
The next level.
Yep. It's not out there yet in ours, but I'm gonna give you a peek behind the curtain. But we're creating a piece of code that you can put in your website that your customers will be able to chat with us. And so anybody that's already doing that is going to be my target. Like, you're already doing this.
Yeah.
You need to get paid for it. How do you get paid in that chat? Oh, well, I don't. Well, guess what? We have a way for you to build during messaging, right? And it's super simple. We can collect Apple Pay or Google Pay for you. So, and people are happy to pay for this service. They don't expect to get information for free.
Well, especially when it's fractions of the cost of somebody coming into your house.
Right. And the intention is that the plumber answering the call is capable of coming to do the work too, and is in your area. There's a whole algorithm built out of like people that are geofenced around here. So the call comes to him first. Wow. There's a whole, that's more techie than me. But
the nerd stuff,
the intention is that so that you answering the chat box, it's your customer. This isn't tech trying to take over the plumbing industry. This is a plumber trying to create a service that almost every plumber out there will tell you, I had this idea, because we've all done it. Every plumber electrician has done a call with a friend or a customer and walked them through something because either they didn't want to go or it wasn't worth their time or whatever. And has thought at some point said, I should get paid for that. Well, I spent 6 figures trying to figure it out. So right now we have 10 different companies throughout the country. It's not a lot, but with those 10 companies, I mean, each of them are doing 40 or 50 calls a week out of that.
Wow.
At $45 a call, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good take. And most of these calls,
especially when it's
last 8 minutes. They're 8 to 9 minute calls.
Especially when it's revenue from inside your building, right? Like, I ran restaurants for a long time. So you think about, like, there's only so much revenue you can do inside your walls. and then you do something like, like a takeout or a curbside thing. And anything that you can do there is just gravy on top, right? Because that's revenue outside your walls. So
That's it.
with a contractor, it's almost opposite, right? Everything you do is outside your walls. But if you can generate revenue sitting at a desk inside your office, that's, like I said, that's all the gravy
There's-
right on top.
And there's so many service managers out there that are plumbers or mom and pop, literally husband and wife shops that just can't take all the calls. They're booked 2 weeks out, but have a favorite
Yep.
customer that needs a flapper fixed. Like, there you go, right? Charge them or don't. I don't
Yep.
care, right?
Right.
This is paid when paid contract with me, right? So you bill it out and you get paid. If you want to use it for free calls, be my guest, right? Use it as an estimating
It
tool.
doesn't cost you anything, right?
No,
Yeah.
we
all
just
you're doing is giving access. Yeah.
we've created the ability to bill for a video call, which sounds cheesy as a whole, but we've worked really hard at the usability of that and making sure that it was equitable for both sides, which was way harder than I thought.
Yeah. How do you vet the people that you're bringing on, right? Because ultimately it's your name. And if you
Yep.
bring on somebody that doesn't know what they're doing or can't help, and now you're getting, I mean, like you said, that one positive review
Yeah.
probably helps. But again, from the restaurant industry, I knew that a negative review always was 10 times worse because
Mhm.
somebody that hates your product is going to tell 10 times as many people as the one that, likes your product.
Yep. I make them call me. I say, if you want to sign up as a technician, you need to call me as a technician on the app. And it's going to be a job interview. And being a plumber, we talk shop, right? Is
Right.
this guy, how did he present himself in the interview, right? Did he come as if he was going to Mrs. Smith's house and he's like, oh, hey, Aaron, nice to meet you? Or is he like, sup, man? Right? Like,
Yeah.
the sup guy, we have a 10-minute conversation and I say, hey, look, man, we got all the technicians we need in your area right now, but I've got you on the list, right? And I know, like, I just ask them, just say for you in the restaurant industry, like if you ran into somebody else that had worked in a restaurant, you guys can, that's a real thing.
Right.
There's certain terminologies and there's a way
Yep.
you talk that
Yep.
are industry specific, and you can't get away from those things. I couldn't pretend to be a military guy. Like, I wouldn't know all the lingo, right?
Right. Right.
So I literally just talk to them. I hope that someday that's a problem, that there's not enough hours in the day that I can't vet all the plumbers that want to sign up. That would be a wonderful problem to have. But we're not there yet. And so I physically reach out or talk to
able
these
to.
guys. So
Is there any sort of kind of follow up to close the loop at any point, or is that built into it at all, where you follow up with the end user and
yeah. So
kinda check with them?
if they pass that customer test, plus it's a really good user experience for them to understand what they're asking their customer to do. So back to that, me not being afraid to jump in the trench, like they have to be not afraid to understand what's going on the other side too.
Right.
This customer's not going it's a first time experience for everybody. Customer might be the first time they're doing plumbing, might be the first time they're doing a video call. Not so much now, right? But in
Right,
2017, when I was starting this,
Maybe,
that
yep.
was a concern, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we
camera
hold the
around?
phone?
Yeah.
We actually had a button in one of the versions that was on my side that nobody could see, and it had an arrow so that I didn't have to keep interrupting the customer to tell them, hey, turn the camera to the right. So I'd hit the button and it would just go ding, 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 and the light would show up with an arrow pointing to the right, and they'd go, oh yeah. I go, yeah, it's, and I was telling them, I was telling him, I'm like, hey, that's our AI. It knows we're talking about the faucet, so you got to keep it on the faucet. I'm like, that's not me.
It knows we're talking.
But people don't know. Like, it's technology, it's AI. But so then to answer your question, we flip that into a technician, and I'd say, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to create you a technician account, and it's usually the next day. We're going to do this exact same call, but I'm going to call you as the customer, and then you're going to see how to bill me and all that stuff. The whole process, it's a 5-minute it's about a 10 or 15 minute interview as them as the customer, and it's about 5 minutes of them as the technician. We've made it so easy as the technician that it's just intuitive. If you bought something on Amazon, you can work this app. I usually don't even need to tell them.
Right.
The creepiest part or the most intriguing part to them is that we have this little dialogue box that shows up in the upper left-hand corner, and the tech guys built it so that they could know what was going on. It gives you, the customer can call me no information, and I know how many times they've opened the app, how many times they've hit this button, how many times, like, it's creepy how much as a consumer out there. So all the people that are listening to this wondering if Facebook is listening to conversations, yes, they are. 100%. It's creepy. So I take that stuff personally though, and I try to make sure that we limit what we're taking. And all it tells me, the important information that I pull out of that box is, was the credit card processed properly, and where they're at. When they call anonymously and it says New York, I don't usually call them out. I ask them still because it creeps people out. Like, oh, New York, huh? And they're like, how do you know that?
How do you know that? Yeah.
But it starts helping me. It starts helping me as the technician understand what I'm going to be looking at. Plumbing in New York is different than here. And I start thinking about who's my contacts in New York if I have to dispatch somebody. That's the end game of this, is that if we need to dispatch somebody, I dispatch somebody locally in that area. So that's the gist of it. If any of your listeners are plumbers and want to sign up, just have them download the app and ask for me by name in the messaging section. It goes to a board and it gets routed to me. They just ask for Aaron in the messaging section, and I see it, and we can do an interview.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. It's fun to see kind of where it's gone from the last time we talked, and the development of it, and kind of the lifespan of it so far. Is there, I mean, obviously you said that there was that one function that you said is going to be coming up soon. Is there anything else that that you're planning or idealistically would be a part of the app?
I do a really good job listening to my users, both my customers and my technicians. A lot like Larratt Brothers, because the size we are, I'm able to pivot in both companies pretty well. And we can do a lot of different things that don't require a board meeting and a month-long decision. Some of the feedback lately has been from we're working on a code of ethics here. When I said you put my name in the board, anybody could steal that call and start marketing it to themselves, right? So, but when they ask for Bobby, the family plumber in Arizona, when that's in the chat box, everybody on the board knows that's Bobby's call, right? We're going to outgrow that, and there's going to be some unethical people that are going to sign up eventually. And so I've been listening to my technicians, and they said, hey, I want like a Venmo type QR code that I can give to my customers on my advertising. So
smart.
So that's the next generation too. That, along with the chat box thing, that's all in the same package they're rolling out. We also have a way, I hope Home Depot's listening to your podcast, but Home Depot has told me I can't sell their parts. You're not allowed to sell our parts. And mainly because they're trying to create a similar product. I've talked pretty far up the chain at Home Depot to like 2 under the CFO or whatever in charge of plumbing. And he said, hey, I love your idea, but we're not going to use it. And you can't sell our parts. And I said, fuck you. I can't sell your parts. I'm going to sell your parts. And we've figured out, well, it's out of convenience. Like the person on Saturday just trying to finish up their P-trap, I send them a Home Depot link.
Everywhere it's easy. Yeah, the link to the product.
I'm selling thousands and thousands of dollars of Home Depot stuff for them for free every Saturday and Sunday. And more than anything, I'm not looking to make a margin on it. I just want to get easy to sell those parts.
Easy. Yeah.
And lately I've been just sending links. We have a process worked out that it's going to print out material list with part codes and links and all that
There you
stuff.
go.
And they can even create a shopping cart. So that's on the customer side. We've been listening on the customer side. So
Yeah.
those are some fun things that are happening. At the end of the day, it's like any tech startup. Man, some days I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to stop today. Just going to close the doors. I'll call everybody and just tell them we're not going to do this anymore. I'm hemorrhaging money everywhere. And then I go through that day and I wake up the next morning and I'm excited about it again. So
Never mind. Yeah, I'm good.
yeah, it's a hard
So
place
my
to
brain
be.
goes to, my brain goes to something like we're taking, because I mean, you have the bones, you have the infrastructure, you have everything, right? And this doesn't work for every trade, right? Like you can't get the paint. This doesn't work for somebody trying to paint, right? Or somebody, trying to do some other things or hang drywall, but electrical, right? Like sort of troubleshooting stuff. But then I think electrical and maybe the insurance guy, my first thought is liability, right? Like what if your tech's helping somebody and they light their house on fire? So that's obvious, but I mean, there's liability in the plumbing too, right? What if you help somebody over the phone and turns out it didn't work out too well and they flood their house and now they've got, water damage everywhere. Is there any, how does that work from your end, from the liability side?
There's a, I don't know, 30-page terms of agreement document that you agree to when you use our app, right? And you acknowledge, but
Nobody reads, but it's in there.
nobody reads, and somebody's
Right.
going to sue me along the way. And again, a great
Right.
problem to have. The day I get sued because
Right.
we're doing so much work that we can't manage it with the equitable, good contractors that are answering, right?
Right.
Most of the guys, two-part answer, most of the guys that are answering know to give enough safety and preparedness stuff. Like, hey, we're about to work on an angle stop. Do you know where your water shutoff is? Yes.
Right.
Great. Let's go look at that first. Let's make sure. Great. You know how to operate that? Perfect. Let's go do the angle stop. Someday that somebody's going to forget to have that conversation, to your point.
Right.
And the lawyers classify this as suggestive work, not as directive, because we're not
Right.
touching it.
Right.
It's kind of like consulting. The consultant is never on the hook when he walks
Right.
through the project. The sound consultant on a giant project, he walks through and he's like, well, I think this pipe is a little too close to this stud and I would suggest putting some felt there, right? But he's never going to get sued unless his details or his process were wrong. He's never going to get sued for a
Right.
sound because the pipe was touching a wall. That still means in methods by us. At least that's how they see it. I mean, YouTube's not getting sued for
Yep,
having
you're right.
DIY
Yeah, I guess
stuff,
you didn't think
so
about it that way. Yeah.
that's kind of the take on it. And
Some of those things, though, that's the no pun intended, but the pipe dream of it, right? But
Yeah.
it's one of those things, especially in California, you don't really know until it goes through the courts and somebody gets sued and it becomes
Exactly.
precedence for sure.
That's-
Yeah.
So somebody will sue me someday. Somebody will.
But like you said, if you're the
those are
first
all-
one, then it's probably a good problem to have because that means you're at that volume where,
Yep.
yeah, you've got that issue. Now that's
Yep.
so. Then that being the case, is this something you've looked to license with electrical contractors or to start up on your own on that side?
The other verticals have always been there. Mechanic, auto mechanics, electrical, HVAC, all those other verticals are obvious. We've been really working on the process with plumbing because, for obvious reasons, I own a
That's
plumbing
what you
company.
know. Yeah.
Everything that I want to implement, I walk downstairs to my service department. I go, hey, guess what? We're doing this today, right? To try something new with Plunjr. And I have an immediate use case that I can plug it into
Yep.
and try it.
Yep.
And I can't do that and other industries are going to be slightly different. So we're
Yeah.
ready to do that. We've had some of those conversations. We've even done a couple white labels of the app. Other industries, like there's a security company that liked the way we communicate. There's a whole hierarchy within the app of a way to dial a friend. If I'm a plumber and I don't know how to answer the question, I can connect my direct supervisor into the chat along with a Plunjr tech that might have different experience, right? The security company liked that from a HOA perspective. So imagine the HOAs being able to hit one button and talk to the security guard of whoever's at the gate that day. They don't need to look up a phone number or whatever. They just hit the button and they can talk to the guy at the gate, and then they can escalate a problem to his supervisor. So we've made 2 different white labels that have helped fund a little bit of Plunjr, just under a different name using our software. So the other verticals are obvious. We just need to, if I can make it work with plumbing, we'll spin out those other verticals real quick. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Very cool, man. Well, Aaron, this has been awesome. Like I said, it's cool, kind of circling back and seeing the lifespan of both, not only Plunjr, but obviously Larratt Brothers as well. Is there a future plan with Larratt Brothers 3 to 5 years down the road? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, we didn't really talk about it, but I actually sold off 55% of my company as of January 1st at Larratt Brothers.
Really?
So, okay. I had a
was that to focus on Plunjr or because
twofold.
You were done in the trenches?
Both, right? Like to grow a business from 2 million to 15 million in the construction space in 5 years, it takes a lot of work. It's not tech. Like that's really light speed. And it's been because of the team, and the team that's here got that other 55%. So 2 guys from within. We worked out a deal similar to how my deal was structured with the other guy, with the Larratts, and the money was right. It's going to allow me to focus more time on Plunjr, which is what I need. I noticed it's not growing like it should because I'm spending too much time at Larratt Brothers, and I want to do that. So, so with Larratt Brothers, we're growing. We're still doing a lot. We're back on track to pre-COVID stuff. With some big jobs that are coming up. I'm certainly still going to be involved. In fact, I'm designated as the field guy, so I control all field aspects. Again, because I'm not great at business. So I'm not good at the books and dealing with the lawyers, and I say things in corporate meetings that I shouldn't, right? I'm dropping F-bombs and shit, right? So they're better at that, and the pre-con and all that good stuff. I'm just good at getting the pipe in and making sure the job gets done, and I get to focus on that. I keep control of the service department, which is good for Plunjr, and I can focus more on Plunjr.
That's awesome. Very cool, man. Well, again, I appreciate the time. This has been great. I not to say that we need to do this again, but I hope we get to do this again in the future, and would love to see where the where everything's at then, and just kind of see the life of it, like I said. But hopefully we'll get some exposure for you for Plunjr, and get some more text for you, and if nothing else, some more customers for you guys, because I think that's obviously what's going to drive you guys for sure. But
for sure,
I'm excited to follow for sure.
Always happy to have another conversation with you. You're a good host.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So let everybody know where to find you, obviously, because they're going to look up Plunjr, they're going to misspell it. So let's get the spelling right. And
it's not technically the verb. Else. They probably already, if they've listened this long, they've already looked for it. Haven't found it, but Plunjr. Right? Plunjr.com is Plunjr.com. And just a quick 30-second story on that. The name came by good old-fashioned construction methods. I said, we're going to run a contest, write your best names on the whiteboard for a week, and we're going to pick one. And everybody thought it was going to be a nice, equitable, like, okay, we're going to vote. And I'm like, fuck no, we're not. I'm a benevolent dictator. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to walk in on our Tuesday staff meeting. I'm going to circle the name I want. I'm going to throw down $100 and I'm buying it from whoever wrote it. Right. And that's exactly what happened. So a shout out to Brandon Dillon, who came up with Plunjr name. He is the great receiver of $100 for that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Easiest $100 he ever made for sure.
Right. Cool.
That's awesome. Very cool, man. Well, we appreciate it again, Aaron. It's been awesome. Keep in touch, and hopefully everything works out for you guys. I don't see why it wouldn't, but
thanks for having me today.
To your success for sure. No, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Have a good one.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you had a good time, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest episodes. And if you had a really good time, leave a review to let us know what you thought. Until then, go gather some crazy stories on your job sites, and we'll see you next time on So, You Want to Be a Contractor.